Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Why I Love Flagler County, your local podcast spotlighting the local community, local businesses, local residents on why they love being in Flagler County. So today I'm super excited to have my guest, Mr. Mike, with us today. Mikey, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, Mike and I know each other from the BNI Business Networking International group here in ours is ours is Flagler, right? Or Palm Coast.
It's Palm
Um,
Coast.
yeah, you got it. And he does some great stuff. We had a connection. I got to know more about his business, and he has a few different things up his sleeve, and he's really great at both of them. So I'll let him explain a little bit more into that. But Mike, why don't you start off with your story of coming down here to Flagler? It's really interesting the places you bounced around before landing here. So I'd love for you to share about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was born in Connecticut. I lived there for 10 years. My parents moved here when I was 10. 2 months after graduating high school, I left for the Navy for 4 years. I was on submarines. And then I came back for 5 months, and then I went to South Africa for 5 years in Jeffreys Bay. I did like a Bible school there. Um, And then I studied online when I was there, and I ended up getting my master's in human services counseling with a focus in life coaching. So the idea was when I came back that I was going to be a life coach or I was trying to be more of a business coach. The problem with that is that I was very young at the time and I the the system that I tried setting up was a model where the first session would be free and then I would charge like $125 for each session thereafter in about 4 sessions or whatever. The problem it was that I would just solve people's issues in the first session. Like they would be at a roadblock or they couldn't see the door when it was right next to them because they were literally centimeters away from the wall. And I would coach them to take a few steps back to look at the issue and they're like, "Oh, I could just do this." And uh and at the time I didn't think I had enough experience to charge like $500 a session. I probably would now. But so I when I came back, that wasn't working. So I worked on long range missiles when I was on my submarine. So I tried getting a job at NASA or SpaceX. This was in like January, February of 2018, and no one was hiring. I think there was one job posting within 3 months when I was looking of what I wanted to do, what would have fit my specialty the best, and of course, I didn't get that. So I kind of pivoted, and a friend of mine his dad owned a roofing company, and this was right after Hurricane Irma. And he was like, "Hey, Mike, we need a lot of help. We're really short-staffed, and we need more people to sell." I'm like, "Sure thing." So I did that for a year, and then I left that company only because I was starting the coffee shop. The coffee shop was something that I worked with my pastors for my wife, and we kind of had this idea of doing it in the side of a church because it wasn't being used, and we had to demo the space and build it out. And so we were pushing towards that. And then when the time was right, I pretty much ran it for 7 or 8 months. And then till we were busy enough to where I could justify hiring employees. So once we did that and we were hiring employees, I went back to the same roofing company and it just didn't work out financially of how I wanted it to. So I ended up getting my license to be a public adjuster. It was kind of very similar in the field, in terms of like I still work on a lot of roofs and But I expanded it to where I do interior stuff with homes and that kind of thing. When I was in the Navy, I had a wide experience involving a lot of different types of systems that are like the theory transfers to a home, like water systems, electrical, mechanical, HVAC, air systems. It's all pretty much the same. And what I needed to do was just make sure that I was able to tell a story to narrate how these things happened, right? How did the loss occur? How did the shingles get damaged or whatever? And that was just kind of my journey of learning all of those things on the way through the roofing and the Navy to do what I do now, where I'm the advocate for the insured. I'm an adjuster that represents only policyholders. I do not work
Hmm.
for the insurance company. I
Yeah.
do not get paid by the insurance company. I get paid by the homeowner.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and then the coffee shop continued to grow, and we ended up just opening our new location on 2nd Street South on 213 Unit 2.
Yeah, on Flagler Beach.
Yep, in
You
Flagler
got,
Beach.
yeah, it's the funniest. So I told you the question that I asked before. So I asked one of the questions is, like,
Hmm.
where would you go for community and stuff? And Yes Coffee, which is the
Yeah.
location, was one of them that popped up. He's like, we love going there. There's great people that are always working there. And he's like, him and his wife just love, he's a pastor as well. They just like being there and being in the community. And it's a great place where they can just spend a few hours with their kids because they just love hanging out there, which I think is super cool. And actually, I don't know if you're comfortable sharing this, but you have a really funny story of how you got into coffee and how you met your wife.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't really even drink coffee even still. Uh, I I don't need it. I just wake like I wake up and 30 seconds later I'm pretty much awake. I don't need anything else. But I know that's not true for other people. But my wife, she's very into coffee. She drinks it. She's physically addicted. She'll get headaches if she doesn't have
Oh
her
no.
coffee. So a lot of people are coffee is a drug people. But so she was really into coffee and she was opening up a coffee shop when we were in South Africa and she needed help. And at the time we were just friends, but I liked her and she didn't like me at the time. But I was going to change that through coffee. So I learned as much as I could. And, and when it came to like showing off my knowledge, I showed off my
You
knowledge
were
and I
there. You
became,
knew all the
yep,
facts.
and I became her right hand man in more ways than one. And yeah, I guess that was just kind of
And the
the
rest is
start.
history because now you
Yeah,
guys
pretty
are
much.
together. You guys have Yes Coffee
Yeah.
together. So it's all great, great endings to
Yeah, we
that.
we actually got married, I think 10 to 14 days before we opened our coffee shop.
Really?
Yeah, so we've been married for a little over 4.5 years. And the coffee shop is also, that's the same age. The coffee shop is about 4.5 years. We
Nice.
opened the shop July 4th of 2019, and we got married June 22nd of 2019.
Wow. So you guys already had like a baby together.
Yeah, people don't understand. It is.
It's a full-time
Yeah.
thing. That I think that story is so cute and so funny. I love hearing that. So another thing about being a public adjuster is maybe if people, I don't know, me and my family, we come from Michigan, and I remember when my dad first heard about public adjusting down here in Florida, he's like, I've never heard of that. I didn't know it existed. So like you said, you represent the policyholders, not the insurance company. So you're really looking out for the client's best interest. You want to make sure they're being represented in a fair way, all of those things. Is there anything that someone should know when seeking out a public adjuster? Maybe like, I don't know
Yeah.
what is going on. How can I call? What should I call for?
Right. So it is best like for me to get involved right at the beginning
Hmm.
before you file a claim, before you do anything, because the reality is a lot of times we'll say out of somebody thinks there's an issue with their home, right? 1 out of 5 times there's no issue, or it is like
Mm.
$1,000 or $2,000 fix. It's like, hey, you don't need to make a claim. because it ends up hurting them in the long run. Because if you make multiple claims over a certain period of time, your insurance rates will go up if you try to get
Mm,
a new carrier
mm,
when you switch. And that's not going to be good. Nobody wants that. You shouldn't make a claim if there's no claim.
right,
So that's why it's good to have like just someone who has experience and knowledge. You know, if your car starts making a sound, you're not gonna like smack it with a hammer or a wrench and think it's just gonna magically work.
right.
Why, you know, if you have to get surgery, you're not gonna all of a sudden watch a YouTube video, then cut open your knee and just start going to town, you know.
Right.
You're going to get someone with experience who knows what they're doing in the same way. If you've never dealt with insurance before, if you don't know how to write an estimate for yourself, if you don't know exactly what to say or and how to speak to your individual carrier, because they're all different to get them to pay, why would you think that you could all of a sudden become this expert?
Yeah.
That's why I have a job. I keep insurance companies accountable to their policyholders, and I make sure that they're treated fairly and honestly to make sure that the homeowner gets everything that they need to cover everything scope wise that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you're doing that and that this is a profession. I had no idea, but I'm definitely the type to I get very anxious very quickly and I need second opinions in these things. And that's why, jobs like yours exist. It's like, hey, yes, you should claim. No, you shouldn't file a claim. This will help you. This won't help you. This is the best way we can spin it. This is how it'll help you the most. And you're, like you said, you're looking out for the long run as well. It's not like, okay, well, how much money can we get this way? It's like, all right, how will this affect you even down the road? Now versus 10 years from now. We want to make sure I know that you're really passionate about making sure your clients are taken care of in the best way possible, that they want to come back and then they'll refer you. And it's really just about building that relationship.
Right, totally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Yes Coffee is a great place, but are there any other places that you would recommend for people, new people, maybe in the Flagler area, or maybe they can find an equivalent wherever they may live? Like maybe groups they can join, places they can go, anywhere to kind of get active, kind of get out there into the community.
So it depends on your age. It depends on if you have kids or not. It
Right.
depends if you're single or married. Those things really do play a factor. Um, I would always start in a church, honestly. Find a good church that, you know, whatever values where you feel planted. That's where I would start. Um, and you could, go from there. Obviously Yes Coffee it is a community hub. That was actually our vision, mission statement was serving the community and creating community, right? So we will
Mhm.
be a place where people come. There's probably about 10 different clubs that or groups that have started through the coffee shop.
Oh,
So
wow.
I know there's a moms group that started through the coffee shop. Uh, there's another like surfing girls group. There's a lot of different things through there. If you just come and talk to our baristas, trust me, they love talking. They're encouraged to talk to the customers. Like there's lots of things that where people meet up and just do all of that. I think there have been 4 people that have been married or 3 people that have been married because they met at the coffee shop.
That's
It's pretty
crazy.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just happened naturally, wasn't
That
forced.
That's great to hear. And yeah, your baristas are great. I know Nikki
Yeah.
has her balloon business and she also works at
Hmm.
Yes Coffee. And I completely agree. The first thing that my family did when we moved here is we're like, all right, the first thing we're gonna do is find a church that we like. So we visited around until we found a place like, all right, this is the church that we believe has the community we want to be a part of and has the values we believe in. And pretty much most of our contacts, most of the people we know stem from that first community we joined.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super cool. So is there anything else you'd kind of like to throw out there before I wrap it up, Mike? I really appreciate your time. This has been really fun for me.
Oh, great. No, I mean nothing really. Just if you need help with insurance, if you're not even sure, if you just need a free checkup, I don't charge for inspections, so
That's
if
great
you need,
knowledge. Yeah.
help, I'm just a phone call away.
Yeah, and it's a very non-judgmental area. You just want to check it out, make sure everything's good, or if it's not good, what you can do further. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid. I'll make sure I have Mike's information in the description so people can click it a little bit easier, find it a little bit easier. So Mike, again, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it. This is a huge blast for me, and I love coffee. I'm a really big coffee person too. So it was super fun to find out that you also did US Coffee. So again, thank you for the time, and to anyone listening, thank you for your time, and I will see you next time.
Take care.